Okay, so what you're seeing here now is the stud work that was done to accommodate the acoustic insulation and the plasterboards that were going to go up on the walls. This is done with 4x2 treated timber, and it was done with the aid of 100mm screws along with the raw plugs, or the plugs that were supplied with them. They're called hammer screws. Believe me, they are really convenient to put this type of thing in. You basically drill your hole in through the wood into the wall, and obviously you can see this is thermalite block, so you just get your hole drilled, you insert the plug with the screw in there, and you can do one of two things. You can either screw it in, or you can just get a hammer and you can bash that in. Really convenient, really quick. I did this, I think, in a day. A lot of measuring, obviously, and you need to plan your corners well, because if you don't get your corners right, you've got nothing to attach your plasterboard to. But it all went pretty well. There are more or less standard sizes, and this is the end result. Here you can see an external shot of the building, and if you look at the paintwork, that's masonry paint. Now, believe me, that was not easy to do. These blocks are very porous, and trying to use a roller with smooth masonry paint on this, it just didn't work. As you can see, it's very porous there. I had to buy a spray gun, and I've sprayed it now, and that got into all the nooks and crannies. Now, you need to treat block work, because if it's porous like this, then the weather will just take its toll on it, and obviously masonry paint is what you buy to do this. But if you've got really porous blocks like this, then you're going to need something better than a roller, because it just will not get in them very small holes that you see in the block work. So if you're going to do that, invest in a spray gun. I think I've paid 30 quid from it from Tool Station. Electric spray gun, worth its weight in gold. Absolutely brilliant. And here is the long-awaited door. That took a long while to turn up. It's a custom door, basically, so there's bespoke measurements on that opening that you just can't buy off the shelf, so I had to get that specially made. And it's what's known as a composite door. Obviously no window in it, but it's got a double locking system on it, and that gives it extra security. I chose black because it goes with the bitumen paint that has gone around the bottom. If you look at that, that's just for extra damp proof protection on there, as there's no damp proof course in this building. I know it's not being habited, but you do need a damp course in there. And there's the window. The window went in reasonably easy. It's just a standard double glazed window, nothing fancy about it at all. Looks the part. I had to go around the edges with some sealant and all that, just to make sure that there's proper damp proofing done on it, but it serves its purpose. There's the inside. As I say, it's lockable. It's I need to put some security on there, because I'm going to have some quite expensive equipment in here, and I don't want to just leave it open. I know this is not a bad neighbourhood. It's a rough estate, I know, but the neighbours are pretty good, so I'm not going to be too overboard on it, but I don't want to just leave it open. So there's a locking system on that window that opens outwards, and it opens out quite far actually. There's the door, internal on the door. I got that white on the inside just to reflect the light and make the place a little bit brighter. It's going to be painted white. There's going to be LEDs on there, so I need to maximise what light there is, because there's, as I say, there's only one window in there, so you're going to need a little bit more light in there. Here is the roof insulation, and this, believe me, was a difficult job. It's 100mm phenolic board, get that pronunciation right, and it goes in between the rafters or the joists in the roof. Now, it's relatively easy to cut. I was using, if you can see in this image, I'm using a reciprocating saw. I bought a circular saw, which was much easier, and I had to cut it to the measurements that would fit in between the joists. Now, I use something called gapper tape, which, if you can see on the edges on here, there's a silver foil, goes round the complete edge of the slab that goes in between the joists. That is like a memory foam that will expand and contract with the wood as it warms up and cools down as the ambient temperature warms up and cools down, and it ensures that there's always an airtight gap in between. If you use stuff like expanding foam, it's messy, it's horrible stuff to work with. Believe me, this gapper tape is much easier to work with. It's not cheap, I will say that, but I think I made the right decision. If you look at the reviews of it and you look how it works, it's a real sensible option. And this phenolic board that goes in between the joists gives you maximum insulation. It's 100mm, so it's quite thick, and I'm leaving a 50mm gap in between as it's a cold roof, so there is some ventilation that gets through above these boards. Here you can see the insulation that's gone in the walls. Now this is 50mm acoustic rock wool, and this will give hopefully some soundproofing to the walls. It's quite easy to work with, you can cut it quite easily, but you need to wear gloves with this stuff. It is horrible on the skin, and especially in warm weather where your pores are open, that fiberglass will get inside. But it's good stuff apparently. No, this isn't a scene from Dexter, this is the vapour barrier. It's simply sheets of thick polythene that have gone round the building to ensure there's no moisture ingress. Now I'm sure you can see the silver tape that's gone in there. That is insulation tape that needs to go around the holes that have been cut out for the wiring that is going to go for the plug sockets and the lights that have come down. And here we have the start of the plasterboarding. Now this was a double skin plasterboard that went onto the ceiling. As you can see, there's a panel lifter there. We needed that to get the boards into position. It's no mean feat trying to do that on a ceiling. These boards are heavy, they're acoustic plasterboards. They weigh 40 kilograms each, so it's no mean feat trying to get them up onto the ceiling. We did it though, and here it is. This is the, I wouldn't say the finished article, but there's still a little bit left to do, but the plasterboard's up now. I've never done plasterboarding in my life, and I don't think I've done too bad a job. I mean, there are some pieces that needed filling in and all that, but it's going to serve its purpose. There's Bill and Ben who helped me out. Not really, that's what I thought of them. It's not really, that's Lee and Glenn. Really appreciate their help. If you're watching this, Lee and Glenn, couldn't have done it without you. Well done. Cheers for your laser level, Glenn, that really come in handy. Right, first day of putting these studs up. I started late. The builder's merchant was late with the delivery. They didn't turn up till 2:30 in the afternoon, and I had to get it all in by myself, and I've had to chop it all up, hammer it into the wall. A few things I've found. Probably should have got 2x2 rather than 3x2. The other thing is these screws here, hammer screws, trying to get them in with that impact driver ain't worth it. Just whack them in with an hammer, and as you do, this bottom bit separates. It's much easier. I don't know whether I burnt some of the brushes on that hammer, on that power, on that impact driver. Started smelling a bit of burning, so yeah, maybe it wasn't up to the job. It's not the greatest, not the highest rating wattage of impact driver, but that's where we are now. I've done all along the top. That was a nightmare. These things, you can't really see them now. These roof braces, well, actually you can see them up here. What a fucking pain in the arse they were. I've had to see what I've had to do. I had to get the chisel out, fucking chisel around them, and over here I've had to cut a 45-degree angle just to get them over that, because if I try and get the wood on there, it won't have it. Yeah, if I'd have got 2x2, it might have been a bit quicker, and yeah, possibly would have been easier to cut. I've only got a reciprocating saw. If I had my time again, I'd probably invest in a circular saw, but I'm not going to be doing that much carpentry after this. I'm absolutely fucking shattered. I don't know whether I'll be doing any building work again after this. That's why I gave it up 20 odd years ago, nearly 30 years now, because my body is not made for it. Right, well tomorrow, oh by the way, this is the roof insulation. That's the 100mm Ecotherm roof insulation. That's going to be going up at some point when the Sparks comes in and does all the electricity. But tomorrow will be getting all these uprights in. Hopefully I'll have enough wood just to finish this wall and that wall there. I don't think I'm going to have enough. I think I'm going to have to order more wood. In fact, I know I'm going to have to order more wood. That's all I've got left. So yeah, I may only even get that wall done. Yeah, oh, what a pain in the arse. I might, yeah, I'll have to get on the blower to the builder's merchant tomorrow. I'll work that out in the morning how much I actually need. I was supposed to get tomorrow off, but every other cunt in work has taken the day off. So it looks like I'm going to have to work tomorrow. The joy. Anyway, onwards. This ain't much cop. It's only rated at 18 volt and it ain't the greatest. I'm using this. This is an 18 volt driver stroke drill, but it ain't the greatest. But it goes through the thermalite blocks relatively easy, so I ain't gonna complain about that. This thing, it's cost me 30 quid at Wix, and it's fucking brilliant. It is. It's gone through the wood like no tomorrow. That's treated wood. That's the pressure treated wood. It's weatherproof, and it will resist damp. And it's very hard to drill through. So what's happened is I was trying to use that 18 volt drill driver and it was absolutely useless, so I've had to use that now. I should invest in some decent tools, but to be honest I haven't really done much DIY like this before, and this is the very first attempt at doing this stud work, and I'm learning as I go along. So yeah, happy days, be lucky. Right, we're outside the studio. This is all a mess. Now the insulation has gone into the roof. There is the door. That was not cheap, believe me. That cost a fair few quid. Also got the window in as well, around there. As you can see it, I'll give you a look on the inside. So, from the last time, this is where we are now. Right, there's loads of tools down there. Ignore all that shit. The electrician has been, and he's put in some initial wiring. So what's happened here is we've got the plug sockets all going around here, and there's some down there. I think there's three. I think there's one covered up by all this. Honestly, there's a lot of shit in here. There's nowhere else to put it. I don't want to put this plasterboard outside because in case it gets wet, just in case I need it. But all the plasterboarding is done now, more or less, save for that little bit above the lintel where that green polythene is. I need to work out something there because that is just concrete. I can't just put plasterboard straight over it. There's nothing to tack it to. But ceiling is double skinned with acoustic plasterboard, and behind that there is the cold roof. You've got the rafters above there. You've got a vapour barrier with that green polythene that looks like that. And it's, as I say, a cold roof, so there is 50mm between that and the roof. You've got a double skin here on the ceiling. That was no fun at all to put up. I had to get a couple of mates to give me a hand with that. I hired this thing. That is a panel lifter. I mean, it's been taken apart now, but I had to use that. And I had to use two hefty fellas, two of my mates, Glenn and Lee, if you're watching, thanks very much for that. And we managed to get this double skin onto that. That's very important, we got that. Could not have done it without this. This is a laser level. Now, they are worth their weight in gold, because if you're trying to find, because there's resilient bars across here, where you see all them screw holes, there's a couple here that haven't been filled, but most of the screw holes have been filled. Where you see that, that's where the resilient bars run across. And believe me, when you think you are drilling into something and you think you've got a straight line, unless you've got a laser level, you really haven't, because we did miss a few. There are some holes here, some errant holes that shouldn't be here, but it is what it is. These, well, it's fucking covered in crap at the moment. I think that's acoustic sealant. But these are for the lights. They're going to be hooked up, I think, next week. And if you look across the top, there's some acoustic sealant going across there. There was a slight gap. I mean, I've never done plasterboarding before, and some of my measurements are a little bit errant, shall we say. So I've had to put acoustic sealant in there and across there as well. So that's where we are now. I've decided I'm going to get this plastered. It's not going to be just dry lined. I'm going to get it plastered. I had a mate come round the other day, he looked at it, he's a plasterer, or an ex-plasterer, he's giving it up now because his wrist is full of rheumatism, but he said just get it plastered, don't try and dry line it, because the paint will cover nothing and there's gaps here. I make no bones about it, I've never done plasterboarding before, but I've had to fill some of this because there's gaps, big gaps, they're still wet, fuck it. And he's just said, plastered a lot, it will cover it all up. So there it is. Now, as I say, there was some timber stud work that was done behind this, obviously, to accommodate these plasterboards that are on the walls. There's also 50mm acoustic rock wool insulation in there, so hopefully that will give it a bit more soundproofing. If it sounds a bit echoey in here, echoey, I should say, it's because the floor hasn't been covered with anything, and obviously all the sound waves are bouncing up from there, hence the echo. If you're wondering what the wood is doing, I've just plasterboarded this bit up today. There's only some wood along there, so I've had to put some no nails on the back end of it, and that's holding that stuff in there. I still need to, the last bit of plasterboarding, I'm probably going to do that maybe tonight or tomorrow, that needs to go in there, and that will be it. There'll be no more plasterboarding. Apart from this, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. If you look, if I just get this up here, you can see there's a concrete lintel here. It's not load bearing at all. In fact, I wish they'd have put a catneck lintel in there, and I could have just put some plasterboard onto it, maybe some bonding or something, but that is just solid concrete. So I've got to think of something to do with that. I'm not sure. Could paint it, but I want to try and get some soundproofing on it, because at the moment it's just, as I say, bare concrete. It ain't doing much. So what is happening? Well, the electrician is coming in on, I think probably next Monday, and he is going to put all the sockets in. The sockets he's going to need to cut out here, and these sockets, they attach themselves to the back of the plasterboard, so there's no screws going into the wall, they just attach themselves to the back. This is quite dense plasterboard. This is acoustic plasterboard in here. Believe me, this stuff is heavy. They are 8x4 sheets, or I think it's 240 centimetres by, or 2,400 mil by 1200 mil, and they are fucking heavy, believe me. They weigh about, well, I think it's 40 kilos each, and I had to get 26 of them in on my own. And that's when I discovered that I am not cut out for manual labour anymore. Them days are over, believe me. But it's all done now. All this shit has got to go down to the dump. All this is spare. If anybody needs any plasterboard, you're welcome to come down and take it away. I've also got some insulation out here as well. But that is where we are now. So I'd say this is at part 2. So next step, as I say, electrician is coming down. He's going to do all these sockets along here. Going to put the sockets in there. Going to put sockets in there. There's going to be 2 sockets over there and a junction box over there in the corner, as well as the lights. Once that's done, plasterer comes in. Going to plaster the whole lot. Once the plastering is done, I am going to go around the outside. I'm going to do all the insulation. There's some little pieces of insulation that need to go in across the top on the outside, and there's a plastic like fascia board that has to go in there. Once that's done, matey from the band, the drummer, is going to come and he's going to do the flooring, and I'm going to give him a hand. There's going to be some soundproofing on the floor that goes in. It's like a 7mm rubber mat with some gold insulation acts like a vapor barrier, and then there's some laminate flooring that's going to go down on this. So hopefully once that's done and everything is in place, it's time for decorating. I may even do the decorating before the flooring goes in, so you don't get any drips or anything like that. I won't paint it, I'll just use a spray gun to do the whole lot, seal it all up, seal the plaster, and then just give it a couple of coats of emulsion, and that'll be it, hopefully. So stay tuned for part 3.